Hello crafty friends. So in the video that you're going to be seeing, I show you how to make these inside out stitched circles, if you will, and you could do this with any shape. I've cut them in pink, and I've done the stitch detail in a sort of cord colour so that then it looks like it's stitched with a contrasting cotton. So you end up with the outer and the inner that fits in perfectly, as you can see, because that's come out of there. Or if you wanted, you could pop that one inside, or indeed if you wished, you could put another frame and then pop that up on something for focal point on your card. So you've got them in several different sizes, but you could do this. I started, I think, at 6 or 6.5 inches in the video, I can't remember what. Or you could just cut everything out and then arrange them on a card to make some sort of a like geometric background for one of your cards. Okay, so you can arrange them however you like, but that's what you get. So you'd end up with 4 frames with the 4 stitch detail. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could even use them in that format if you wanted on a card, so that you've got them sort of all placing, touching at the bottom, forming that, make a nice backdrop for a card. And remember, you've also got the what would have been the waste from cutting a frame. You've now got layers that you can use that have been 4 stitched. So I hope you enjoy the video on how to create the file, and thanks for watching. Remember to go over to my blog to download the files for free over at Beverly 10 Blogspot, and also you can see the other videos showing you how to create lots of other files and put things together using Scan and Cut Canvas. So if you like what you see, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hey friends, it's Beverly here over at Crafting Chaos, and I'm here with quite a simple tutorial for you, but it's very effective when you're making layers for cards. And I've noticed that actual stitched, 4 stitched sort of layering frames and also matting layers are also quite the thing at the moment. Now I'm going to show you how to make what I call an inside outside stitched frame with matting layer, if you will, and I'll explain that, and I'll show you a picture of them afterwards, what they look like when you've done this. Now first of all, what you're going to need to do is bring on a shape of your choice. Now I'm going to choose a circle. Notoriously difficult it would be by hand to do a 4 stitched area, but also if you choose the right colour for your cardstock when you're actually doing your drawing line on your Scan and Cut using your universal pen holder, if you've got it, you can actually make it look quite like it's been embossed or stitched, cut a little bit. So it is quite a good illusion if you do it with the right colour. So a tone of a similar colour but maybe a little bit darker. Okay, so, and it gives you that impression. So I'm going to start off with a rectangle. I'm going to duplicate it to give me another one, and I'm going to reduce the size to 5.25. So that's 5.25. So now I've got 6 and 5.25. I'm going to duplicate that one, and I'm going to make that one 4.50. And I'm maintain the aspect ratio locked. And then I'm going to duplicate that shape, and again knock it down by 0.75, so that makes it 3.75, like so. And the next one, so we've gone from 6, 525, 450, 375. So then we're going to do it again, and this time we need this one to be 3 inches, and then again, and this one's going to be 2.25, and once more. Oops, I'm just going to make them so that they're all sort of fitting on-ish. It doesn't really matter if they're not fitting on perfectly. So we've got our incrementally smaller rectangle circles even, and that's going to be 1.5. So 1.5, so they're getting smaller and smaller, and you could make this as big as you want. You could make it like 11 by 11 if you wish and follow the same idea, but this is what I've decided to do. So then you need to select all of the shapes, so we need to select everything, and then we're going to create an offset line. We need it to be inward. We want it to be round because it's a circle, and I'm going to make the spacing 0.08 and say OK. So now that's given us an offset of each of our circles. So now I'm going to click in the centre of each one just to select that offset line. So you've got to click, we don't want the outer line, just the offset one. We're going to change that to a perforating line and also a drawing line, like so. So whilst they're all still selected, we're going to click on offset, and again we're going to go in by 0.08. Now again, now that's made another stitch line, so if you wanted a double stitch line, that's how you do it. So then you click on each, again the ones that we've just created, and because now we need to go back to a full line and a cutting line, like so. So now we've got a cut line, a perforated drawing line and a cut line. Then we're going to do it once more, select all of the shapes in the centre, so the ones that we've just created, and we're going to do that offset once more, 0.08 inward, and say OK. And then we're going to click and select each of the centres once more, and again we're going to make it a perforating line and a drawing line. So that's the shapes created. Now we need to select each one, so group. So there's 4 layers to each one, so we're selecting all 4 layers and we're layering and grouping. And again, layer and group. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm actually doing. So zooming in with the zooming in tool, so we'll do it with this one. So all I'm doing is just selecting the 4 layers that make up that shape. Layer and group and layer, select them all and group, select all 4 layers and layer and group. Now I'm not sure whether we've done this one or not. Layer and group. I think that's them all done now. So we're going to display zoom to mat so we can see what's on our mat. So now I believe, now I'm looking at them, clicking on them, and they're all one shape. Now what we're going to do now is edit and select all, and I'm just for ease going to line them up centrally and vertically. So now we've got all of those layers lined up, if you will, in the centre of your mat. So you could send that across and choose. So what that will actually cut like is, like I'm going to show you in my example, I'll show you a photograph of it, is it will, first of all, I would always suggest you advocate that you do the drawing first. So first of all, when you send this by going file and transfer FCM file via the internet, that will send it directly to the scan and cut where you can download it from the iCloud. Now, once you've done that, what it's going to actually do on your scan and cut, and I would always advocate doing the drawing part first. Put your pen in your pen holder, or if you've got the opportunity, use your universal pen holder so you can select a different colour of ink, and get it to draw first of all. So it will draw that first perforated line. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. So it will draw that first perforated line from this border here, and then it will draw this one. Okay, so then you will, without removing your mat or moving anything, put your blade back in and do cut, and that will cut this line, the outer line, and the third line in, if you will. So what that will actually leave you with is this middle part will become a matting layer, and this part will become like a frame, if you will. Okay, so that's how you can do it. Now you can vary this as a theme. So I'm just going to display and zoom to fit to mat. I'm going to select all those again, and I'm just going to duplicate it. And I'm just going to show you with another shape how you can vary what you're doing. So it might be that you're wanting it to be a wider frame than that. So if we start at 6, like so, you might want your actual frame to have a stitch line at the edge and a stitch line before it's cut. So let me just show you. So I would say create an offset, go inwards by 8 and make it a perforating layer, then go offset inward, and I'd go by something like 0.24 and say OK, and then you're going to go in from that one 0.08 like so. So now what you've effectively got, if we make that a cutting line, and we can click on that one and make it drawing, and click on the other one, and if we can't get it we'll go into this one till we do, not that one, that's the one. So layer, it's now going to be a drawing line. So now what you'll get, if we do one more offset and in by 8 like that, what you've actually got there now, when we group those together, if I zoom in I'll explain again, group is, we're just zooming in. So if you put that, send that to the scan and cut, and it goes to cut, it will make a wider frame with a stitch at the each end at either side of where your cut lines are. So this part here that I'm indicating will be your frame, if you will. And if we just let's just try hiding that one. Let's just click the shape. Let's see if we can make it a bit, oops, I didn't mean to do that. We'll uncollapse the group, not that one, so it must be this one. So we'll hide that centre layer. So that's kind of the frame that you get. So it's going to be a little bit wider, because when we click that now, if we put it on there, that's nearly, I'd say, it's not quite half an inch, but it's close to, I'd say definitely 3/8, maybe 3/8 of an inch frame, like so. You'd cut that, that's what you'd end up with, one shape, and then if we unhide that but hide the rest, you'd also end up with, not that one, just let me just work this out for a second so I can try and show it you, because what we would also have is, we need to hide that one and that one, and no, get in there, that one, and that would be the matting layer that you'd end up with. So you'd have that shape as a matting layer, but obviously it'd go right out to the end, that colour, because that would just be your cardstock. So that's going to be your matting layer, your square, your circle, if you will, your solid circle piece. Then if we go back onto the layers, let's just undo that colour, and we'll unhide them. Let's find out which group it is, this one. So we'll just expand the group and click on the eyes just to reveal it all. So you'd end up with that and that matting layer, but it would be a wider frame. So we'll zoom out again, and similarly, so if we just take a copy of that, not all of it, we'll start again from scratch, it's easier. Zoom, fit to mat. So if we wanted, say we wanted a 3/4 of an inch frame, so if we start off with 6, with it measuring 6 inches, so let me just close that shape because it's very distracting, and we'll make it 6 inches, like so. And say for example we might want it to be 1/2 an inch, the frame, or 3/4 of an inch, we can offset it by 0.75 and say OK. So that's now going to be that. Now we can now create an offset which is 0.08 from there and say OK, and make that a perforating line and a drawing line. And if we click on this one, which we can't get because at the minute, hang on, that one, this time we want it to go outward though, because we want it to come back into the frame, if you will. So we're going to click on this one, we're going to go on offset, leave everything the same except for changing this to outward, say OK, and that's going to create us a drawing line for there. So we'll make that drawing line. So now what you've got is, that would be a frame that is 6 inches in diameter, and the frame width would be from one cut line to the next. So if we just line that, we'll just layer and group it temporarily, and if we line that up to one of the borders, you can, one of the map grid lines, you, oops, I'm moving the wrong thing here. So I'm just going to select everything. We'll go on artboard, snap to grid, and we'll just snap it so that it's snapped to the grid. And what you can see now is that, oh, I've changed that back into a, went too far with my undos. So what we would have there is a frame that, if you look at where your grid lines are, so let's just zoom in a bit. If we look from this grid line here to here, that frame was going to be 3/4 of an inch in width. Now if you want also a matting layer, so this circle that's going to be cutting out of the centre of this, so that's going to cut round there, and you're going to end up with this frame here. So we'll zoom fit to mat. If that's what you're going for, we can then add another offset, and this time we want it to go inwards by 0.08, and this is why I call it an inward, we're on the wrong one, an inward outward frame. Okay, so that's now created us a 4-stitch layer for that. So we've now got, if we look at this carefully on the thing, so we've got, let me just try to, so we need to hide that one. No we don't, we're on the wrong one there. I've got 2 lines on top of one another here. Edit, undo. I think I've got 2 of the same lines here somewhere along the line. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So we've got, that's the centre, let me zoom in. So that's the first, that's better, we can see what we're doing now. So we've got cutting line, so that's where you're going to have your frame. Then you've got drawing line, oops. So what we wanted to do now is click on this central part, so the inner shape, this one, and we're going to need an offset if we want to get that circle with a 4-stitch line cut at the same time, so it's an inside outside, if you will. We're going to go in 0.8 inches and say OK, and then we're going to change that to a perforating line and a drawing line. So that's exactly what I've just been doing when I showed you the nesting shapes, but now I've just explained how you can make the width of that frame anything you want. So display fit to mat, and I'll just run you through that once more because I know it got a little bit confusing. So we're going to just group it. So let's say we want a frame that's 1 inch wide. So we bring on our circle, so bring it on. Make it 6 inches because I'm just starting at 6 inches. It's a nice easy figure to work with. I'm going to create the offset first of all at 1 inch and say OK. So that's going to go exactly 1 inch from where we are. Now if we go on that line, we want to create an offset that's only inward by 0.08, so a small offset, and say OK. And we're going to make that a drawing line and a perforating line. Then if we click on the layers palette, we want the inner circle, now this one, and we want to come back in towards the shape, because that's where it's going to cut out. It's like a donut, if you will, at the minute. This is the donut and this is the hole. So from the hole we want the stitching to go outwards from that line. So again, we'll go on offset, change the direction to inward and say OK. Close that down. Oh, I missed that. Quite done. It mustn't have registered. We'll do it once more. Inward and say OK. So now that's gone inward. So that's created our faux stitching for our rectangle. Now if we click on, we need to get the right line as well now. So we need that cut line there. That's the second one. And this time we want a faux stitch line that goes back in towards the donut, if you will. So outward this time. Say OK. That's created that line. And then we can make that a perforating line and a drawing line, and that's how we get the two shapes. We get this first shape, which is going to be, if we just select everything and layer and group it so I can move it, if I move that down now, we can see that our frame, if we zoom in, starts at this cut line here and goes to this cut line here, which is exactly 1 inch because that's what we chose at the start. We then went back to this line here, the outer line, came in by 0.08 to get our perforating line and also made it a drawing line. We then went to this cut line here, we went inward by 0.08 to come this way from it, so we're going in towards the centre of the shape. And that created an offset at 0.08, made it perforating and drawing. Then we went back onto this line, and this time we want it to go outwards towards the outer side of the shape. So we clicked 0.08 outward and made that a perforating and drawing line. So you can basically use that to make nested shapes or a bespoke shape that you want, and you can make it any shape, any size of frame that you wish. And it doesn't just work. So if we do zoom fit to mat, hang on, and let's try it with a different shape. So say for example you fancied more of this kind of a shape, sort of a funny shaped square, if you will, sort of a rounded edge square. If we start with that at 6, again, let's say this time we want our border to be, say, let's say 3/4 of an inch, so 0.75, and we want it to go inward, so we want it to go in towards the centre of the shape. Say OK. So that's put us a nice, that would be our two cutting lines for our frame, if you will, but we'd be left with this piece in the centre, and we can pretty it up a bit. So again, if we go on the outer line, we can create an offset, this time 0.08, and say OK, going inward, and make it a perforating line and a drawing line. Then we can go on the centre shape, which sometimes you might be easier to get using your layers palette, which is the third icon down, because you can click the shapes and you know which one you're selecting. So it's this one that's that centre cut line, and we need an offset perforation drawing line going inward and one coming outward, so that we'll end up with a matting layer that's this shape here with a 4-stitch border on the inside. But then we're also going to have a 4-stitch border on this strange square shape. So if we go, first of all, it doesn't matter which way we do it, we can do it inward and then outward, or outward and inward, it's up to you. So we'll go, it's already on that, so we'll leave it at that, so it's going inward. So that's going to be for the matting layer, if you will. So the square that's cutting out here will have that 4-stitched edge as well. But then again, using our layers, we need that cutting line again. We're going to be exactly the same measurements, but this time we're going to be going outward. So that will create another one of those lines, which we can then turn into a perforating line. So that will give us a frame that's 0.75 inches or 3/4 of an inch in width from one cut line to the next, with a perfect stitched border to the first cut line and inward from the second cut line, so it gives it that bit of interest on your cards as well. And then you'll have a matting layer here that can then also be stitched, and obviously you could put that back in a different colour if you wanted, or you could pop it up so it's giving it some dimension, but you're still going to have that 4 stitch layer, and so on. So there's just loads and loads of things that you can do. I would always say when you finish creating the shape, group them so that you don't accidentally nudge one of your lines, so that it's no longer in the centre. But you start off, we started off, let's review, by making a layering shape in using exactly the same methods that will give us a frame, if you will, and also a 4 stitched matting layer. Then I've shown you how to use a similar sort of action to create an actual frame that you've bespoke picked the width of, and also having that 4 stitching going around. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please like, share and subscribe. Remember, I don't get anything for doing these videos. I just do them because I hope people are actually learning from them and being able to, hopefully my hope is that at some point in the future, if you're not doing it now, you will be using Canvas Workspace and the like to design your own files. Although you're welcome to download anything that I create, because the files that I show you on YouTube plus others I include for free download over on my blog. I will include a picture of what my first one came out like, just so you haven't cut all the layers, but I've just cut some of the layers so you can see the effect that you're going to get. And that's it for now, and I'll see you soon in my next video. If you've liked it, please remember to tell your friends where to find me, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.